Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Procrastinator's Pit Stop. I am sitting here with none other than Scott Grace. Scott is a transformative coach, comedian, and author of four insightful books. He uses humor and musical magic to bridge the divide in the not so United States. With 40 years of experience, including performance alongside luminaries like Deepak Chopra and Ram Dass, he combines wisdom from his diverse background, including stand up comedy, mental health, and spirituality, to inspire and entertain audiences while offering practical insights for personal growth. Scott, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chris.
And we're so excited to dive into this. So we'll dive right into the meat of the matter. How would you define procrastination, and what does it mean to you personally?
Well, procrastination for me is when there's something I want to get done and I'm putting it off. And usually it's because I'm telling myself I have to. And the voice I have to is usually followed by the reaction of you can't make me. So the moment something I want to do is turned into you have to do this, it inspires the rebel in me. So that's part of it. And the other part of it is just I'm not connected to my fear. Like there's something that needs to be done and I just feel scared to go there for whatever reason. And so my inner child just sort of takes the steering wheel and says, hey, look at that YouTube. Hey, let's stay in bed a little longer.
That's interesting. You bring that up, that whole have to versus you want to. That's very the fire that we all have, right? So what do you do? Because we know there's no one cure all, fix all, catch all. But what do
Mm.
you do? What's your secret sauce for overcoming procrastination?
I transfer the I have to I get to. And that's not just a little mental gymnastics. It's a process where I listen to my inner child and I hear him say, I don't want to do this. You can't make me. And I say, yeah, I can't. You're in charge. But there could be some fun here. And here's how we could make it fun. So it's a negotiation that I've developed with my inner child.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And the other thing that I try to practice, I'm not a rich man, but somebody once said, if it's not fun, hire it done. So I live in a community and I can get just help in the blink of an eye. And so I don't feel so alone with the chores and the things that I don't like to do, don't want to do, and you can't make me.
Well, I certainly understand that. I can feel that. We all have those things. I did want to touch on these not so United States that you have here. I know that it's a common question of procrastination, and a question that has always boggled my mind. And I hope you don't mind that we're going there. This is not about pointing fingers or attacking or blaming
Mhm,
or
mhm.
anything like that. But I genuinely want to know. And again, up in Canada, I say we have no government right now. So, but
Yeah.
how is it that you have a proud group of people that all seem to be procrastinating on something? I mean, they had Nixon and Watergate, want him out, wanted to do something about it. Okay, yeah, we get that. Bill Clinton drops his zipper for what, 10 seconds of pleasure, and they want him out right away. Uh, Trump, what what's going on?
Thank you, Chris. And you opened up Pandora's box, and everyone has an opinion about this. And my point of view is just mine, and I hope it's helpful to some people. I believe that things have gotten squeezed. People have gotten squeezed. People who try to live a basic, normal life, go to college, get a job, can no longer support their families. And there's a sense of things are moving so quickly. There's a movie, Stop the World, I Want to Get Off. Things are moving at a dizzying speed. The way immigrants are going all over the place. People are intermingling and it's just happening so fast. And the evolution is just off the charts. And there's two reactions to that. One is bring it on, this is fun. And the other is resistance to change and fear of where this is going. And there's a belief system. I'm not a part of it, and that is if immigrants are coming to take our jobs, like that there's scarcity, there's a limit to our good. And if these people who are not me are taking the jobs, then I can't feel safe. I can't feel secure. And instead of taking responsibility and saying, I can do anything, I know who I am, I can make choices and changes and everything, it's a lot easier to blame. And Trump comes along and says, here's what's to blame. It's not you. It's not you, but it's them. And this is a tactic that has been going on for, of course, since we began. And Hitler did the same thing with Jews. So it's a fear play. And what Trump is doing is he's feeding on the fear that a lot of people are having, legitimate fear. But there's a bunch of really scared people who are easily manipulated right now. And then the radical liberals who are like, just, so everybody's entrenched in a position. And no one is like, oh, on one hand, da-da-da-da, but on the other hand, da-da-da-da-da. No one is looking beyond their belief system to enjoy, or let's just say, understand other points of view. It's like we've all become fundamentalists on one side or the other.
That makes a lot of sense. Again, worded that way, that the freeze or, fight or flight, right? And right now it's or freeze.
Right. Well, during his first presidency, I wrote a little book called How to Evolve During the Trump Experience, Whether Humanity Joins You or Not. And on the back, I wrote a little poem. Donald Trump is not a problem to be solved. He's an in-your-face wake-up call, a calling to evolve. As this book assists you to do some inner work, Trump may still be acting like an insensitive jerk, but he won't continue to jerk your chain because you'll have discovered how to remain in your peaceful, powerful, and playful center where love and joy and immigrants can enter.
It's an inspiring poem for sure.
Yeah.
And didn't you mention that you also had a little song?
Well, I've got lots of songs. When he was elected the first time, I was so shocked. And one of the things I do when I'm upset is I write a song, very often a fun song, a funny song. And this was a parody of Danny's song by Kenny Loggins. Even though we ain't got money, I'm so in love with you, honey. And I just was fantasizing about how Donald would take that song and, of course, change it, make it his own. And if he was really honest with himself, this is what he might sing. Like, okay, here we go. People say I'm insecure underneath it all, that I build my towers tall to compensate for something small. Had me 3 trophy wives with looks that kill, but in bed too and chill. Glad I had prenuptial. Even though I don't keep my honey, I'm so in love with my money. Every day I make a million more. And in the morning when I rise, I pull the wig right over my eyes and tell myself all day that I'm always right.
Wow, that's a really good song. It touches on a lot of things there. The overcompensating and overreaching and things. But let me ask you, why
Please.
is comedy or why is parody such a good tool or medium for letting off steam or for healing?
Yeah, venting, releasing stress, tension, letting off steam. It creates more tension at first and then release. So it's just, all right. The other thing it does, and you said this, healing. First of all, it helps us laugh away tension. It helps us see paradoxes. It helps us acknowledge the shadow. This is a man who has it all together, on the outside, and he might be the last to admit it, but I see a very scared, insecure little boy that never got enough love underneath his macho. So comedy helps us see that. It also could, and I have mixed feelings about that song because it does something that I'm not proud of, which is it disses Donald for dissing people. It pokes fun. It, like, if he was listening to it, he'd get really angry. It's like, do I really want to use my gifts, my talents, my voice to just make somebody wrong? Or do I want to practice what Gandhi did, An eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. Martin Luther King didn't say, I have a complaint, So I don't want to focus my attention on what I don't want. I have a part of me called the spiritual Dr. Seuss, who loves to come out and give me wisdom through humor and play. And one thing he says about complaints, he says, and this is me, I say he, but it's really a part of me. He says, ask and it's given, it says in the Bible. But if you're like me, then you're really quite liable to ask in a way that is more like complaining. Not like, let there be sun, more like, make it stop raining. And when you are focused on what you don't want, the universe has no choice but to respond by delivering more of what you're focused on. It could drive you to web surf at hopeless.com. And you know what? That has always been true, that you get what you focus on. But it seems to be more true lately since the internet came along and the algorithms. You click on 3 or 4 liberal-leaning videos, and eventually that's all your screen is going to show you. And you can start to think that your way of thinking is what everyone is watching. It's quite a bubble or a matrix. It used to be that people were exposed to all kinds of points of view. Before the news became profit-driven was just reporters considered objectivity their God. Can we just state the truth as a video camera would see it? Without opinions? Opinions belonged in the editorial section. Now, there's nothing going on in the news but opinions and points of view. Did I get off track, or are we still on the same subject?
No, we're on the same subject. You said a couple of interesting things there, and it's that essentially wrapped up. It's what you resist persists. I guess what you put your focus on,
Yeah,
gets there. But I never really considered the algorithms. I never really paid much attention to the algorithms because we don't see the algorithms.
yeah. But boy, people who are conservative, whether it be Facebook or YouTube or whatever, that's all they're going to see is they're going to collect more and more evidence that their point of view is the right and only way to see things. That's dangerous stuff.
Well, for sure, personal bias. I mean, I try to take out personal bias as much as possible, even in my own everyday interactions with people. But I find myself, and I talk to other people too, and it's almost as if, it's all programming, right? So from a very young age, we see different things. For me, just an example, I'll give you an example, and it's not me trying to, offend anybody, but when I hear some of these police reports that go out on the news, when you're trying to find a suspect, so the suspect was, 6.5 feet tall and, had curly hair and, he was running down the street in a green hoodie. Well, I just came out of a basketball game, from the Celtics. Everybody's got curly hair and wearing green hoodie. Can you give me something else? Like, was he Caucasian? Was he something else? Well, any other identifying features? But we seem to have turned identifying features into a slur of kind. And it could be, even something as like, do you realize it's gotten so bad? I cannot be called bald. Like, I cannot be labeled as bald. Well, how would you describe me in a lineup? I'm asking you objectively, how would you describe me in a lineup?
I would say Caucasian, beard, glasses, bald.
Yeah. And now all they can say,
shiny, bright head.
Mr. Clean went on a rampage.
And highly intelligent, probably well schooled, well versed in getting people to speak their truth, potentially a good podcast host.
Hell, I like that last one. The stroke in the ego. You're good at that. But the point is that if we don't have that lens, all you have to work with is glasses, beard, and middle aged or whatever, right? Which describes half the people in the vicinity. It seems like we're taking it a step too far sometimes by trying to. It's strange because you say that we, the United States is not so united, but when we try to amalgamate things too, we wind up dividing ourselves even more. I find that a very weird sort of dichotomy.
Yeah, the attention we place on words and wokeism, to me, it's sort of like we were on the side of being insensitive. And when people are out of balance, they don't go directly to the middle, they go to the other side and explore the other side. And eventually we come into the middle ground. But right now, there is a huge out of balance paranoia and ultra hypersensitivity, and it's causing a lot of stress. I have some comedian friends who don't do college campuses anymore because they had to, walk on eggshells, and it's just not fun.
Cancel culture. Am I going to get canceled for, actually, Gabriel Iglesias, actually, for, some of the other stuff in his personal life that I'm not going to go in there, but I mean, his take on apologizing for jokes that were 10, 15 years old that were out of, off color were acceptable back then. He said he won't apologize for so I'd like to hear your opinion on that. When we're talking about healing and we're talking about uniting, I mean, when it comes to that, do we admit those faux pas from the past, or do we take that stance and say, you know, yeah, but it was acceptable back then?
Oh, that's a personal, what's your taste? What's your flavor? I personally wouldn't apologize. I would say, sounds like that really impacted you. And, you know, and just not take an opinion, just acknowledge that the person's feeling hurt or whatever they're feeling, wow, it sounds like that really had an impact on you, and stay away from either apologizing or defending.
So how can we, through humor, and not everybody likes humor, not everybody has the same humor taste. How can we, what steps can we take today to try and just understand our fellow person, or try to be more?
I love the question, Chris. I will answer it. During his first presidency, I was on an airplane and I sat down next to an elderly couple wearing MAGA hats. And first I cringed. I sat there and stewed in my own reactivity. But we had 4 hours, and eventually I struck up a conversation and found some common ground, asked them about their grandchildren. They were so proud and so willing to show me pictures and tell me stories. I told them about my daughter, showed pictures, told stories. Time was passing. We were laughing, smiling, getting along beautifully. And at a certain point, I asked them, do you mind if I ask you a question? And they said, no, because we had already bonded. And I said, what kind of world are you hoping that President Trump is going to bring or lead to for your grandchildren? What are your dreams for them? And how is Trump, going to help us to take them there? And they painted a picture of the same thing I want. And it occurred to me that we pretty much, if we really get honest, we all have the same needs. It's just that we have different and sometimes radically different strategies for how to get there. And we connected on the level of mutual human needs, and we parted as friends. And I thank the elixir of curiosity. Instead of fear, anger, judgment, I was able to get curious and lead into a conversation that brought us connection rather than correction, which is what our minds want to do, is correct. So really genuine curiosity. Not, I don't understand how the hell you could have voted for that man. Nothing like that. That's not really curiosity.
You're right. I'm curious why you don't agree with me, or I'm curious why you don't do things my way. That's a little bit more antagonistic, right? More so than
It sure is. And people respond to vibrations, not so much the words. I did an experiment when I was a kid. We had a dog, and I said, Daiquiri, I love you. And he growled. And then I said, Sweet Daiquiri, I hate you so much. And he started wagging his tail and coming closer to me. And we respond to vibrations. So if you're feeling combative or aggressive, probably your curiosity is not going to be welcome because it's not real.
that's interesting. I mean, so could we say that curiosity at its base is neutral?
Well, I would say it leans us towards connection. It comes from the heart, or maybe an open mind, a place of, I don't know, and I want to learn something new. I don't know if that's neutral. I don't know what your definition of neutrality is, but, to me, it's a healing. Just like comedy can be healing, curiosity can heal both me and the person who is on the other end. Like, I'm interested in you is such a beautiful thing to feel and to communicate.
I definitely agree with that. And, my knee jerk reaction, and I say knee jerk reaction because um, it's the first thing that popped into my head. And of course, me being me, I'm saying that's not right. So my knee jerk reaction to that is, so then all world leaders, one of the criteria for them to be in power, no matter where they are, where they come from, should be an innate sense of curiosity and wanting to understand the greater view. And that
That would be
obviously doesn't
nice.
happen.
That would be nice. Big egos are usually behind the scenes. And I remember President Harry Truman in the United States, he was famous for saying, who in their right mind would ever want to be president? So big egos want the attention and the power. And sometimes they feel like they can make a difference. And sometimes they do. But curiosity is not very popular in Washington, D.C. these days.
Well, it's a bit of an understatement for sure.
I know. I'm trying to be more like Jimmy Stewart than Jimmy Hoffa.
Hey, they found him. He's all right.
He's all right. Actually, it's Paul that's dead.
So it's interesting though that just going back to your story about connecting, and it just goes to show that underneath uh, underneath everything else, we all are. We're not the same, but we have the same basic needs, the same
Yes.
basic drives.
Yes. Yes. And when we connect on the level of unity, hey, we all have the same needs. We can have a human connection. But when we hold tight to our opinions have dominion over our heart. And it's time to press delete and restart. It's just my belief is that the more rigid someone holds to their opinions, the more suppressed, denied fear there is in the psyche. That fear is what causes dogma and I'm right, you're wrong kind of thinking.
Well, this is interesting too. Just going back into the whole concept of fear, like you were saying, back with your example of, if they come in and take our jobs, it's a legitimate fear, scarcity, right? But I mean, this can be said for resources, and for minerals, and for territory. Why do you think that the ego believes that we need? I don't know. Let's say that we've got enough. Why does the ego believe that we need to, have all the resources of another country in order to survive?
Yeah, it's a beautiful question, Chris. I think I already said it. There's fear running the show behind the scenes. My country had a mandate from God, a juicy rationalization for wiping out the Native Americans called Manifest Destiny. And more, bigger, better, and doesn't matter who we hurt or kill. We are entitled to the whole country. And then let's take California and Texas from Mexico because we're entitled to that. It's arrogance, it's entitlement, and it's all fueled by I'm not enough. I need more and more and more because deep down, I don't feel like I'm enough. But I don't have to feel the raw pain of that when I'm accumulating wealth and land and having power over other people.
It's interesting that you mentioned the power part, because I know from personal experience that when you are solely going after the material gains for no other reason, you tend to feel pretty empty, and, and that's what drives it. Is you tend to want more because you still feel that pull.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, shining that light is very uncomfortable.
There's one of my spiritual Dr. Seuss poems, Oh, the places your ego will go. This is what it says about what we're talking about. Maybe you're on the fast track to success, constantly driven to be great, better, best. You're a mover, a shaker, a big-time achiever. You're a real self-made man, a dazzling diva. You're rich and you're famous and you make quite a splash. You're on top of the world and you're rolling in cash. You drive the right car. You've married the right spouse. Today, lunch with Oprah. Tomorrow, the White House. But at night, insecurity pays you a call because you know anytime you could lose it all. Your shrink says to rest. Your spouse sure agrees. Your doctor says ulcers, take 14 of these. You know you should slow it down sooner or later. But your foot is just glued to the accelerator. Your ego consoles. Well, at least we're successful. It's a sign of success to be constantly stressful. You've made it to prime time and everyone loves you. But your self-esteem's based on what others think of you. And opinions can change in the blink of an eye, which is why you need meds just to sleep and get by.
That's it's a really powerful point. I like that. When did you make that one?
Let's see. My daughter was 2 years old, 2010. I was putting her to sleep, reading her a Dr. Seuss book. And when I tucked her in and closed the book, it was like the rhymes couldn't stop. I couldn't stop them. So I couldn't fall asleep. I went to my computer. I started like receiving these rhymes, noticing they were more for adults and had more wisdom. And I fell in love with it. And so I came out with a book with 6 of these poems, the places your ego will go. And I love the idea that wisdom can come in through the back door of playfulness and humor and rhymes.
Well, this isn't an unknown phenomenon. I've had quite a few people that we've talked to, and they call it this. It's I don't think it's new. They call it edutainment,
Oh my
where
God, I love that.
yeah, where they make these silly viral things that have deep hidden meanings, and it's a very fine line between something going viral and the message being missed completely, though. Which was interesting. I know that people have been trying to stick things into children's shows, that I totally miss. George Lucas and Star Wars. I used to watch that. I'm dating myself. I used to watch that until the VHS wore out, and there was lots of spirituality in Star Wars. There was
Oh
lots
yeah.
of wisdom. Master Yoda's biggest quote, I did not even realize this until it would have been, yeah, we'll call it 30 years after the fact. I realized that, when Yoda was saying, fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to the dark side. I never connected the dots that, well, all anger is fear. All hate is fear. And the fear is the unknown.
Absolutely. Yeah, the spiritual Dr. Seuss likes to say, fear itself likes to stay hidden from view and play hide and seek in its host, which is you. I'm not afraid, I'm just angry, it shouts. I've been mistreated and need to speak out. I'm not afraid, I'm upset, and I'm caring. There's so many disguises that fear enjoys wearing. He's proud of his wardrobe because he designed it. Though he wouldn't admit it, fear's quite clothes-minded.
Yeah, I like that one. Clothes. I can't even say it.
Yeah. And
That's a good one.
I was 7 years old when I first expressed this idea that it's not appropriate, safe to feel or express fear. And this is a very, very young child. I was afraid of swimming pools and water. I had been resisting taking swimming lessons, and I went to a summer camp in which we were told it's swim time. And I said, "Do I have to?" And the counselor said, "Yes." And he said, "Why don't you want to?" And I said, "I don't know. I just don't feel like it." Meanwhile, my body was trembling. I got into the water crying my eyes out. It was so traumatic. And if I could have said, "I'm terrified and this is not a time for me to deal with it," that would have been an adult way of handling it. But it's interesting to me that the programming of thou shall not admit fear was in me at such a young age.
Well, I'd go a step further and say it's emotions in general. One of the major theories that I kind of buy into is that we have so many problems, and again, I'm guilty. I just ignored my emotions for many years, buried them. What was the saying? You bury a man, bury them until you blow up and have an alcoholic episode, like every normal
Okay.
person. But
Yeah,
I think that's changing now, right?
absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, to me, Trump and his companions, it's like the last hurrah of macho. Like we're growing out of it at lightning speed, and the energy of macho is freaking out, and it's taking one last power grab.
Yeah. Certainly. I'm sorry.
And
Go
you
ahead.
know what, Chris? I agree with you. All emotions, especially for men, are sometimes in the shadow. And to quote Yoda, around loss, around grief, sadness. In one of the prequels, Anakin was just so furious he refused to accept that he had lost Princess whatever it is, and and Yoda said the refusal to feel loss is a sure path to the dark side. To me, bullets and bombs are hardened. They're made from uncried tears. The uncried tears harden into defenses and weapons and anger and this sense of justification. I'm justified. I can own this land. I can bomb these people because, you know, and so that's what grief turns into when it's not allowed. It's a soft emotion. It melts us. It opens our hearts by breaking our hearts. And those people who don't allow themselves that experience, if you get hard, turn into hardness.
Definitely something to think about. Well, Scott, it's been an excellent conversation. I enjoyed every minute of it. Time just flew by. We are approaching close to the time. Is there anything that you wish I would have asked but didn't ask, or anything you feel that we should have covered that we didn't cover today?
Beautiful question. Well, if we had time, like maybe 14 hours, I would definitely have a lot to say. But as far as the time that we did, I thought it was a really meaty. I don't hear any lingering questions in my head. I wish we would have talked about this. There are a lot of songs and poems that I wish I could have touched upon because I'm an edutainer and I love to show off, like a peacock displaying my feathers. So my only regret is that we don't have 14.
Okay. Well, hey, you want to go 14 hours? You heard it here first. We're going to be the first podcast to run a full 14 hours.
Okay, bathroom break.
No,
Do
use a
I
bottle like everyone else.
do I get a chance to tell people where they can find me?
For sure. No, for sure. What is the and especially the books. Your books are, I imagine, are all available on Amazon,
Yes.
other places.
Yeah. I would say the easiest thing to do if you want to look at my books or just, find out more about me and is to just go to my website, scottsongs.com, SCOTTSONGS.com. On the homepage, you can scroll down and all four of my books are there and you just click on them and they take you to Amazon. There's a place to subscribe to my very occasional newsletters. And then there's all the comedy and spiritual Dr. Seuss So if you want to procrastinate and also be inspired and entertained at the same time, procrastinate at scottsongs.com.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for that, Scott. And to all our listeners, don't worry, we are going to put that in the show notes so it's easy for you to find. So no pen and paper needed. Just before we go, though, Scott, I have to ask you, what's next?
For me,
Yeah, for you, what's next?
yeah, I'm going on the road with uh, a talk slash concert slash comic show called Beyond Red and Blue, Keeping Your Heart Open in Divided Times. And I'm very proud of it. I'm also really nervous, and I think it's a good nerve. It's good that I'm breaking out of my comfort zone and doing something that I think is really needed, really important. I feel like I'm drawing on the energy of Mark Twain, Robin Williams, John Denver, and Dr. Seuss, all rolled up. And I want to take it into the States or wherever I'm invited, college campuses, Google, Apple. It's a big, bold, and ambitious vision that I have.
Well, with all those energies, you are definitely in good company. All those were great, very great, very great people for sure. And all very successful. And I'm sure that, you will be able to get your message out just the same way as they did. Very sure of that. Anyway, thank you so
my
much for
friend.
being on the show, Scott. And to all our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. And again, just remember, if you can't find that inspiration or motivation for yourself today, maybe just go out and try to be that motivation and inspiration for someone else. And we'll see you again next time.